Botticelli's paintings for the powerful Medici family were more than just beautiful art. They were coded messages, whispers of power, philosophy, and secret dreams. What if the lavish scenes of goddesses and wise men held secrets only a select few understood? What if the beauty on display was just a cover for something much deeper, something that shaped the very future of Florence? Prepare to look at these masterpieces not just with your eyes, but with a new understanding of the hidden world lurking beneath the vibrant colors. Number 1. The subtle presence of the orange tree, a Medici family signature. Look closely at many of Botticelli's grandest works for the Medici. You might notice a recurring motif, almost like a subtle watermark that screams, "Medici was here," without ever writing their name. This silent signature is the orange tree. It appears in the Primavera, standing tall and laden with fruit, its leaves distinct among the varied flora. It appears in the Birth of Venus, lining the shore where the goddess steps onto land, its golden fruits contrasting with the pale sand. This isn't just an artistic choice for aesthetic appeal. The orange, particularly the bitter orange, held a very specific and powerful symbolism for the Medici family, a hidden message woven into the fabric of their commissioned masterpieces. The orange tree, or arancia in Italian, was deeply connected to the Medici family through a clever play on words and a visual pun. The Medici coat of arms, the iconic symbol of the family, features a shield adorned with red balls or pall. In Italian, pall sounds similar to arents, the word for oranges. This linguistic connection became a quiet, elegant way for the family to assert their presence and ownership over the art and spaces they commissioned. It was a visual shout-out to those in the know, a quiet nod to their power and influence. It was not just a fruit tree, it was a symbol of their very identity. The orange tree also symbolized prosperity and fertility, qualities that the Medici wished to project onto themselves and their rule over Florence. Oranges, with their bright color and abundant fruit, represented a golden age, a time of plenty and flourishing under their patronage. The trees in Botticelli's paintings are often shown in full bloom and heavy, with ripe fruit, suggesting a perpetual springtime, a never-ending period of wealth and bounty that the Medici brought to Florence. This subtle messaging was not just about showing off, it was about shaping perception, creating a narrative of their rule as inherently benevolent and prosperous. Furthermore, the orange tree had classical and mythological associations that would have resonated deeply with the highly educated Medici court and their humanist circles. In ancient Greek mythology, the Garden of the Hesperides, a mythical orchard, was said to contain golden apples, which some later interpretations connected to oranges. These golden apples were symbols of immortality and divine favor. By incorporating the orange tree into their commissioned art, the Medici were subtly linking themselves to these ancient myths of divine blessing and a timeless golden age. It was a way of elevating their earthly power to something almost mythical, suggesting their rule was not just by human right, but perhaps even divinely ordained, or at least steeped in classical grandeur. The placement of the orange trees within the paintings also carries weight. In the Primavera, the orange grove forms the backdrop for the entire scene, framing the central figures of Venus and the Graces. It creates a sense of an idyllic, enclosed space, a private garden of earthly delights and Neoplatonic ideals. This could be interpreted as Florence itself under Medici rule, a protected and thriving sanctuary. The trees here are not just decorative, they are an integral part of the symbolic landscape, quietly asserting the Medici presence as the foundation of this ideal world. In the Birth of Venus, the orange trees are visible along the coastline where Venus makes her arrival. They are a subtle reminder of the earthly realm that the divine beauty is entering, but also a reminder of the patrons who commissioned this vision of beauty. Their position in these monumental works, often framing or surrounding the central figures, ensures their prominent yet discreet appearance. They are always there, watching over the scene, a silent witness to the beauty and philosophy unfolding. The consistent use of this specific tree in paintings commissioned for various Medici family members and their villas suggests a deliberate and coordinated symbolic strategy. It was a way to weave the family's identity into the very fabric of the artistic landscape of Florence. It was a secret handshake, a visual code that only the informed would truly appreciate, allowing the Medici to express their pride and influence without overtly branding every painting with their coat of arms. It was a sophisticated form of propaganda, a way to gently, elegantly, and persistently remind everyone of their enduring power and the prosperity they brought to their beloved city. The subtle message of the orange tree was not just for the elite, it was designed to be understood on different levels. For the casual observer, it was a beautiful, natural element. For the knowledgeable humanist, it was a profound symbol of the Medici legacy and their connection to ancient myths and modern prosperity. Botticelli, working closely with his patrons, would have been acutely aware of these layers of meaning, carefully placing each orange tree, each golden fruit, to serve its purpose as a quiet yet powerful declaration of Medici omnipresence. These seemingly innocuous trees are, in fact, powerful symbols, rooted deep in the Medici identity, standing tall and bearing fruit, just like the family itself. Number 2, portrait of a young man holding a medallion, a glimpse into Medici lineage and identity. Among Botticelli's striking portraits, one stands out for its intriguing detail, the portrait of a young man holding a medallion. This painting, believed to have been commissioned by a member of the Medici circle, perhaps even a young Medici themselves, carries a powerful hidden message about lineage, identity, and the towering legacy of the family's patriarch, Cosimo de Medici the Elder. The central element that unveils this message is the gold medallion held by the young man. It features a profile portrait of Cosimo de Medici, a highly unusual and deeply significant inclusion. The medallion is not just a decorative piece, it is a replica of a genuine commemorative coin or medal that was struck during Cosimo's lifetime or shortly after his death. Cosimo de Medici, known as Pater Patriae, or Father of the Fatherland, was the de facto ruler of Florence during the mid-15th century. He laid the foundation for the Medici family's immense power, wealth, and cultural influence. His image on the medallion instantly connects the young, unnamed sitter to this powerful and revered ancestor. It is a direct link, a visual statement of allegiance and inheritance. The identity of the young man in the portrait remains a subject of much discussion. Some art historians have suggested he might be one of the younger Medici, perhaps a nephew or a cousin of Lorenzo the Magnificent. Others propose he could be a prominent figure from a family closely allied with the Medici, someone who aspired to share in their prestige and wished to publicly display that connection. Regardless of his exact identity, the act of holding Cosimo's medallion is a deliberate and significant gesture. It speaks volumes about the young man's aspirations, his reverence for the Medici dynasty, and his place within their sphere of influence. The pose of the young man, presenting the medallion directly to the viewer, emphasizes its importance. It is not merely a piece of jewelry he is wearing, it is something he is actively showcasing. This gesture transforms the portrait from a simple likeness into a profound statement about identity, legacy, and perhaps even political allegiance. In an era when personal portraits were often about asserting status, this particular detail elevates the subject by associating him with the most esteemed figure in Florentine politics and patronage. It is a quiet declaration, I am connected to him. The inclusion of the medallion also subtly reinforces the idea of Medici continuity and the endurance of their power. Cosimo the Elder died in 1464, but his legacy continued to shape Florentine life for decades. By featuring his image in a contemporary portrait, the painting suggests that the spirit and influence of Cosimo live on through the younger generation and through those who align themselves with the Medici. It is a visual representation of the family tree, showing the roots from which current power stems. The medallion itself is a miniature work of art, a testament to the Medici's patronage of goldsmiths and metallists. Its intricate detail and precise rendering by Botticelli underscore its value, not just as a precious object, but as a historical artifact. The way the light catches the gold, making it almost glow, draws the eye immediately to Cosimo's profile, ensuring the viewer understands the central role of this symbol. Botticelli's skill in rendering this miniature portrait within a larger one showcases his mastery and further highlights the significance of the medallion. This portrait, with its profound connection to Cosimo de Medici, served as a powerful statement in the competitive world of Renaissance Florence. It was a visual declaration of one's place within the Medici orbit, a public acknowledgement of their enduring legacy. It spoke of loyalty, ambition, and a shared history. For the young man, it was a way of borrowing from the immense prestige of Cosimo, associating himself with the Pater Patriae and all that he represented: stability, prosperity, and cultural flourishing. The hidden message was clear. My identity is intertwined with the greatest family in Florence, and my future is linked to their enduring power. A sophisticated and subtle form of self-presentation, leveraging the visual language of reverence and connection to assert one's standing in the Florentine elite. Number 3. Pallas and the Centaur. The triumph of Medici, wisdom and diplomacy. Botticelli's Pallas and the Centaur is a painting brimming with allegorical meaning, a silent narrative of power, reason, and strategic triumph for the Medici family. Commissioned by Lorenzo the Magnificent, this artwork was not merely a mythological scene, it was a sophisticated political statement, a hidden message about the wisdom and diplomatic prowess of the Medici ruler. The painting depicts the goddess Pallas Athena, or Minerva, goddess of wisdom, war, and strategic battle, holding a centaur by his hair, while her hand rests gently on his shoulder. The centaur appears subdued, almost regretful, with a broken bow. The most widely accepted interpretation of this painting's hidden message connects directly to Lorenzo de Medici's greatest diplomatic achievement, his solo journey to Naples in 1479 to negotiate peace with King Florence. This journey was undertaken at a critical time for Florence, following the devastating Pazzi conspiracy of 1478, an assassination attempt on Lorenzo and his brother Giuliano, orchestrated by rivals, including Pope Sixtus IV. The conspiracy resulted in Giuliano's death in a war declared by the Pope against Florence. Lorenzo's audacious trip to Naples was a gamble, but it ultimately succeeded in breaking the alliance against Florence and restoring peace. In this allegorical interpretation, Pallas Athena represents Florence, or more specifically Lorenzo the Magnificent himself, embodying wisdom, reason, and strategic leadership. Her calm, composed demeanor, despite holding a wild creature, speaks to the power of intellect and diplomacy over brute force. Her spear, resting against her arm, is not wielded aggressively, but rather as a symbol of latent power and authority. Her dress, adorned with olive branches, a universal symbol of peace, further reinforces this interpretation, suggesting that the triumph is one of peace achieved through wisdom, not through war. The centaur, a mythical creature half man, half horse, traditionally symbolizes wild, untamed nature, passion, and irrationality. In the context of the political events surrounding the Pazzi conspiracy and the ensuing war, the centaur can be seen as representing the forces of chaos, the political enemies of Florence, or even the raw, destructive impulses of war itself. Pallas's gentle yet firm grip on the centaur's hair signifies the triumph of reason and negotiation over these disruptive forces. Lorenzo, through his wisdom and diplomatic skill, tamed the wild forces that threatened Florence, just as Pallas subdues the centaur. The centaur's broken bow and his downtrodden expression suggest a defeat not by brute force, but by the superior intellect. He has been disarmed and subdued, not through violence, but through a masterful application of strategy and wisdom. This reflects Lorenzo's diplomatic success in Naples, where he disarmed his enemies not with military might, but with persuasion and negotiation, thereby bringing peace back to Florence. The painting, therefore, served as a powerful visual tribute to Lorenzo's statesmanship, a proud declaration of his ability to steer Florence through turbulent times. The setting of the painting, featuring a mountainous landscape with a distant view of the sea, might also carry subtle references. The cave, or rocky outcrop the centaur emerges from, could symbolize the darkness or danger from which Florence emerged, while the more open, sunlit landscape Pallas stands in represents the peace and order that Lorenzo brought. The golden rings adorning Pallas's body, believed by some to be personal symbols of the Medici family, subtly reinforce her connection to the ruling dynasty. These rings are not overtly displayed, but blend into the design of her attire, a discreet mark of ownership and identity. This painting was likely intended for a private audience within the Medici palace, a place where such sophisticated allegories would be understood and appreciated by the intellectual elite of Florence. It was a means for Lorenzo to project an image of himself as a sagacious leader, a man capable of navigating complex political landscapes with intellect and grace, rather than resorting to overt aggression. It communicated a message of Florentine strength, not through military might, but through the superior wisdom of its ruler. The hidden message of Pallas and the centaur is therefore a celebration of Medici wisdom and diplomacy. It portrays Lorenzo the Magnificent as a benevolent yet powerful force, guiding Florence towards peace and stability through his unparalleled intellect. The painting served as a testament to his successful navigation of a period of immense danger, immortalizing his achievement in the timeless language of classical mythology. It was a proud assertion that, under Medici rule, reason would always triumph over chaos, and peace would always be achieved through sagacity. Number 4. Adoration of the Magi Medici power in sacred garb. Botticelli's adoration of the Magi is far more than a beautiful depiction of a biblical scene. It is a masterclass in hidden messaging, subtly proclaiming the power, piety, and legitimacy of the Medici family. Commissioned around 1475 for the Church of Santa Maria Novella, this altarpiece cleverly weaves portraits of prominent Medici family members and their allies into the sacred narrative, transforming a religious homage into a powerful political statement. The painting depicts the three, Magi bowing before the Virgin Mary, Joseph, and the Christ child. Traditionally, the Magi represented the three ages of man, or the three continents, bringing gifts to the newborn king. Botticelli, however, uses their figures and the surrounding crowd to deliver a very specific message about the Medici. The oldest Magus, kneeling directly before the Virgin and kissing Christ's foot, is unmistakably Cosimo de Medici the Elder, the patriarch who established the family's dominance in Florence. His prominent position speaks volumes, placing him at the heart of the sacred moment, almost as if he were a spiritual ancestor or a divinely recognized leader. The second Magus, kneeling in the center with a hand on his chest, is identified as Cosimo's son, Piero de Medici, known as Piero the Goody. He represents the continuation of the Medici line and their devotion. The youngest Magus, standing on the right, is Giovanni de Medici, Piero's brother, another key figure in the family's early rise to power. By placing these three patriarchs as the Magi, Botticelli elevates the Medici to figures of almost biblical significance, linking their earthly rule with divine approval and wisdom. Their journey to adore the Christ child mirrors their role as wise and benevolent rulers of Florence. But the hidden messages do not stop with the Magi. The crowded scene around them is filled with other Medici family members and their close associates. To the left, standing proudly in a red cloak, is Lorenzo the Magnificent, the ruling head of the family at the time the painting was made. His confident gaze and position among the onlookers subtly assert his authority and presence. Beside him, in a white garment, is his younger brother Giuliano de Medici, whose tragic death in the Pazzi conspiracy a few years later would cast a long shadow over the family. Their inclusion firmly places the current generation of Medici within this grand, sacred lineage. Many other figures in the crowd are also believed to be portraits of prominent Florentine citizens, scholars, and artists who were part of the Medici circle. One of the most intriguing hidden messages is Botticelli's own self-portrait, visible in the far right of the painting. He stands at the edge of the crowd looking directly out at the viewer, a young man with a golden cloak. This inclusion is a quiet but firm assertion of the artist's own standing and his close association with the powerful patrons who commissioned the work. It is a signature, a claim to his place within this grand historical and spiritual tableau. The setting of the painting further enhances its hidden message. The ruins in the background, possibly classical Roman architecture, suggest the idea of renewal and a new era ushered in by the Christ child, but also perhaps by the Medici themselves. They are presented as patrons of a flourishing new age in Florence, one that reveres both ancient wisdom and Christian faith. The overall composition, with the figures arranged in a theatrical arc around the central Holy Family, draws the viewer's eye to the key Medici figures, subtly reinforcing their importance. For the Florentine citizens who would have seen this altarpiece in Santa Maria Novella, the sight of the rulers kneeling before Christ would have been a powerful visual sermon. It asserted the Medici's piety, their devotion to God, and their role as protectors of the faith. But beyond piety, it also conveyed a message of their immense wealth and power, capable of commissioning such magnificent works and placing themselves at the very heart of sacred history. It was a sophisticated form of legitimization, suggesting that their earthly dominance was not just a result of human ambition, but also of divine favor. The adoration of the Magi is therefore a masterpiece of strategic communication. It uses religious iconography to subtly yet powerfully reinforce the Medici's social, political, and spiritual authority. It transforms a familiar biblical story into a deeply personal and political statement, reminding everyone who held the reins of power in Florence and how deeply intertwined their lineage was with the very fabric of the city's religious and civic life. Every face, every gesture, every detail contributed to this grand hidden declaration of Medici supremacy, shrouded in devotion. Number 5, The Birth of Venus, a philosophical awakening for Florence. Botticelli's Birth of Venus is an iconic image of beauty, yet beneath its shimmering surface lies a profound philosophical hidden message, deeply rooted in the Neoplatonic ideals championed by the Medici court. This painting was not just a celebration of classical mythology, it was a visual manifesto for a new way of thinking about beauty, love, and the divine, a philosophy nurtured and propagated by the Medici family in Florence. It reflected their intellectual ambitions to blend classical wisdom with Christian spirituality, creating a truly unique cultural awakening. The painting depicts the goddess Venus emerging from the sea foam, carried to shore on a seashell by the wind god Zephyr and possibly the nymph Aura. On the right, Ahura, a goddess of the seasons, prepares to clothe her. While the mythological narrative is clear, its deeper layers unlock the hidden message. The central figure of Venus is not merely a representation of earthly love or sensuality. For the Neoplatonists at the Medici court, particularly the philosopher Marsilio Ficino, there were two Venuses, the heavenly Venus and the earthly Venus. The heavenly Venus represented divine love, pure beauty, and the pursuit of truth and spiritual enlightenment. The earthly Venus, while still beautiful, embodied procreation and the sensual, material world. In Botticelli's painting, Venus is often interpreted as the heavenly Venus. Her serene, almost ethereal expression, her modest pose, and her translucent skin all suggest a beauty that transcends the physical. She is not overtly seductive, rather, she inspires contemplation and awe. This interpretation aligns with the Neoplatonic belief that earthly beauty could serve as a pathway to understanding divine beauty and truth. Marsilio Ficino, a key figure in the Medici-sponsored Platonic Academy, translated Plato's works and wrote extensively on Neoplatonic love. His ideas would have profoundly influenced the intellectual atmosphere in which the Birth of Venus was conceived. For Ficino, beauty was a divine emanation, a ray of God's goodness that manifested in the material world. By appreciating beauty, whether in art, nature, or human form, the soul could be drawn upwards towards its divine source. Botticelli's Venus, therefore, becomes a visual embodiment of this philosophical journey, a reminder that through the contemplation of beauty, one could achieve spiritual elevation. The figures surrounding Venus also contribute to this philosophical message. Zephyr, the gentle west wind, often associated with fertility and life-giving breath, could be interpreted as the divine spirit or inspiration that brings heavenly beauty into being. The hora, offering a cloak adorned with flowers, represents nature and the cycle of creation, welcoming divine beauty into the earthly realm. The oranges visible along the shore, as mentioned before, subtly connect the scene to the Medici family, implying that this philosophical awakening was taking place under their benevolent patronage within their sphere of influence. The painting's classical subject matter itself was a hidden message. At a time when religious art dominated, a large-scale mythological painting was a bold statement, reflecting the Medici's enthusiastic embrace of classical antiquity. It funded scholars who revived ancient Greek and Roman texts, collected classical sculptures, and encouraged artists to draw inspiration from the ancient world. The Birth of Venus was not just a return to classical forms. It was a statement that ancient wisdom and beauty could coexist with Christian faith, forming a holistic approach to knowledge and spirituality. This was the core of the Florentine Renaissance, and the Medici were its greatest patrons. The very act of commissioning such a painting for a private villa, possibly for Lorenzo di Pierfrancesco de Medici, one of Lorenzo the Magnificent's cousins, suggests it was intended for an audience attuned to these complex philosophical ideas. It was a visual aid for contemplation, a work designed to provoke thought and inspire a deeper understanding of the world, not just to decorate a wall. It was a piece meant to be discussed among the learned, revealing its layers of meaning to those initiated into the philosophical circles of the Medici court. Thus, the Birth of Venus carries a hidden message of a philosophical awakening. It is a testament to the Medici's commitment to Neoplatonism and their belief in the power of beauty to elevate the human soul. Botticelli, through his masterful brushwork, gave form to these abstract ideas, presenting a vision of divine beauty that invited contemplation and spiritual growth. The painting was a quiet yet profound declaration that under the Medici, Florence was not just a center of commerce and power, but a crucible for new ideas, a place where art and philosophy converged to inspire a more enlightened way of life. Number 6. Primavera, the Medici garden of Neoplatonic ideals. Botticelli's Primavera, or Spring, is one of the most mysterious and debated masterpieces of the Renaissance. Painted for a member of the Medici family, likely Lorenzo di Pierfrancesco de Medici, this large allegorical work holds multiple layers of hidden messages about Neoplatonic love, political ideals, and the very identity of Florence under Medici rule. It is a visual poem, a complex tapestry of classical mythology woven with the philosophical currents of the Florentine Renaissance, all subtly referencing its powerful patrons. At first glance, Primavera appears to be a joyous celebration of spring, featuring a gathering of mythological figures in an orange grove. From right to left, Zephyr, the cold spring wind, pursues the nymph Chloris, who transforms into Flora, the goddess of flowers, scattering blossoms. In the center, Venus, the goddess of love, stands beneath an arch of myrtle overseeing the scene, while Cupid, her son, aims his arrow upwards. To her left, the three Graces dance in a circle, and on the far left, Mercury, the messenger of the gods, dispels dark clouds with his caduceus. Each figure, however, is believed to carry a symbolic weight far beyond its mythological identity. One of the primary hidden messages lies in the Neoplatonic interpretation of the scene. The Medici family were avid patrons of the Platonic Academy, founded by Marsilio Ficino. Neoplatonism sought to reconcile classical philosophy, particularly Plato's ideas, with Christian theology. In this framework, the figures in Primavera can be seen as representing different facets of love and beauty, leading to spiritual enlightenment. Venus, at the center, is often interpreted as the Neoplatonic Venus, a figure who governs both earthly and divine love. Her presence suggests a harmony where human passions, represented by Zephyr and Chloris's pursuit, are transformed into higher, more spiritual forms of love, symbolized by Flora's blossoming and the Graces' harmonious dance. The three Graces, personifications of chastity, beauty, and love, or splendor, mirth, and good cheer, dance in unison, representing the virtues and graces essential for a flourishing life, both individual and societal. Their interconnectedness signifies the harmonious interplay of these ideals. Mercury, by dispelling the clouds, brings clarity and wisdom, perhaps guiding the soul towards higher truths, or representing the rational mind's ability to control earthly desires. This entire procession, guided by Venus, could be interpreted as a journey of the soul from earthly love to heavenly love, a core concept in Neoplatonism. Another powerful hidden message in Primavera relates to the political ideal of Florence as a new golden age under Medici rule, specifically Lorenzo the Magnificent. The orange grove, a prominent feature of the painting, as discussed earlier, is a direct visual link to the Medici family, with the pall of their coat of arms subtly referenced by the oranges. The lush, fertile landscape, the eternal spring, and the harmonious gathering of classical deities could symbolize the peace, prosperity, and cultural flourishing that the Medici claimed to have brought to Florence. It presents Florence as a blessed land, a garden of delights where wisdom and beauty thrive under benevolent rule. Some interpretations go further, suggesting that certain figures in the painting might even be subtle portraits or allusions to specific members of the Medici family or their allies. While debated, these theories propose that the figures embody certain virtues or roles that reflect the Medici's self-perception or their aspirations for their city. For example, some have suggested that Mercury bears a likeness to Lorenzo, the Magnificent himself, acting as the wise dispeller of conflict. This kind of nuanced portrayal allowed the Medici to assert their authority and vision without overt political slogans. The sheer scale and complexity of Primavera also convey a message about the Medici's wealth, taste, and intellectual sophistication. Only a family with immense resources and a deep appreciation for classical learning could commission such a monumental and intricate work. The painting was likely intended for a private setting within a Medici villa, a space where its layers of meaning could be discussed and appreciated by a select circle of humanists, poets, and scholars who understood the nuances of its classical allusions and philosophical undertones. The flowers in the painting, meticulously rendered by Botticelli, are also said to carry hidden botanical and symbolic meanings, some referencing specific events or individuals. The detailed depiction of over 190 different species of flowers, many accurate to the Florentine spring, adds another layer of realism and symbolic depth to the idyllic scene. Each blossom, from violets to strawberries, contributes to the overall message of fertility, beauty, and renewal. In summary, Primavera is a complex and captivating work that holds multiple hidden messages. It is a visual celebration of Neoplatonic ideals of love and beauty, guiding the viewer from earthly experience to spiritual enlightenment. It also serves as a sophisticated political allegory, proclaiming Florence as a new golden age of peace and prosperity under the wise and benevolent patronage of the Medici family. Every detail, from the mythical figures to the abundant flora, contributes to this rich tapestry of meaning, making Primavera a testament to the intellectual and artistic brilliance fostered by the Medici and Renaissance Florence.